Okay, welcome to session 2. Let me do a little bit of work. Okay, so in last session we talked about what a website is in general and some important terms that are related to websites and website development. So in this session, let's get into the websites. We saw these websites earlier, okay, and we knew what a website is, what is the domain name, how web pages are put together. We have not yet done that too, but we know there are web pages which will be put together. So a website, as we discussed earlier, is a set of related web pages located under a single domain name. Fine. What makes a website? We also looked into it, but let's take a look at it again. A website is made of text, and text can be a simple text which is presented by default, or we can control its sizing, its decoration, its alignment, its font style, or writing style, or colors, or background color, and a lot of other things. So text is one of the most important piece of a website. The second thing is coloring. Okay, so text, as I said, can be colored, or background can be colored, and color makes your content more readable at times, but if you have used colors abnormally, it will make your content ugly as well. So it's a difficult choice. You have to have right set of colors, and then basically to choose colors, you have to think like an artist, a painter. Okay, if you don't know what painting is or how painters think, not to worry. We can learn good practices from the experience of others, the people who have been building websites or who have been using websites for different target domains. They have more or less found out which color or color combination works the best for the given target base. So some colors, which is some website which is for, say, kids, they may like brighter color, but some website which is for technical people like medical practitioners, they would not like too flashy colors. So we can choose the colors based on the primary target audience. Okay. Third and very, very important part of websites is images. When an image makes your site more lively, more interesting. So all text will make it like a NCERT book. But if you add images, it will look like a comic book maybe, or it will give it more sense. It's generally said one image is equivalent to 1,000 words. So you can save a lot of text by replacing it or substituting with with a nice image. And then fourth part is icons. I'm sure all of you have been using icons. I see some of you have used icons here like thumbs up. So thumbs up, when you show that, it's like an image, but when you put up that image, it gives a lot of sense. And there are many commonly used icons which are present in the world, and people have started recognizing the meanings of them. So it gives a lot of options for you. You want to tell people, say, press here, and you want to show a finger towards that, or you want to say press here, or you just want to gain attention on a specific section. You can use an icon instead of using words, see here or press here, and that will make your site more interesting. So icons will be used quite a lot, or you will see icons present in various websites. So we can use icons. And then ultimate thing is putting them together nicely. And that is where the design becomes important. We can have text, we can have images, we can have icons, we can have multiple color combinations. But if we are not able to put them together correctly, it may lead to a disaster. So we have to be very careful about placing them all together. Okay. So now let's get started. We are going to develop, we are going to design as well as develop, but our focus will be on development in this whole course, because design is mostly domain specific or your problem specific. So your design may differ, your taste may differ based on what your user base is, or a target audience is, or what type of problem you are solving. So we are not going to focus on that. However, at times I will tell you what are the good practices for text or for images or for coloring, which will help you become a better designer. But for this course, we will focus more on the development part, and we will see what are the options available to do something. Suppose I have to specify a color, how will I do that? Suppose I have to change the default font styling or writing style, how will I do that? Okay, so the focus here will be more on the implementation than the design, or the development than the design. So the first important protocol or language or technology that is useful for creating a web page or a website is HTML. It's an abbreviation for Hypertext Markup Language. We'll get into the details of that in a while. So that is the primary technology. The first and most important technology for website creation is HTML. The second technology that will help HTML prepare and present the content nicely is CSS, which is called Cascading Style Sheet. Now, HTML comes up with various markups which will make your content visually good, or to some extent it will work. But if you want to have your own customized visualization or presentation, then CSS gives you a whole lot of customization options. In CSS with HTML actually makes your page really great. Okay, so we will learn CSS and HTML together. We will not learn HTML separate from CSS, because CSS adds a whole lot of value to HTML. HTML gives us the basic ingredient. It is like the brick and mortar, and CSS is like plaster and painting and other decoratives, right? So unless until you put both of them together, you will not get a great looking monument created. So these two technologies go hand in hand. The third technology that is of importance is JavaScript. JavaScript makes the site more lively, more interactive, more responsive in terms of reacting to user events and other situations or events. It is also capable of getting your page content created dynamically. It can change what is present. It can change the entire content, or it can bring new content from some other place and put up in your existing page. So JavaScript makes your site very, very dynamic. Okay, so If you have content which is not going to change too often, quite likely, then you will probably not need JavaScript, not at all. But if your content is going to change, or if it has to accept, say, users' inputs or get something uh, changed over time, then you will need JavaScript. But that is not the primary thing. Primary is HTML and CSS. Okay, so we'll focus on HTML, CSS first, and then when the right time will come, we'll get into JavaScript. Okay, so HTML, as I said, it's an abbreviation, and the full form is Hypertext Markup Language. So text is the primary source of or primary content on websites. And then you start marking up somehow. You say, this is a special, this is a special, and this is how it should be shown up on the browser screen or client's screen. Basically, text is simple content, the words or characters or sentences that you are writing. But how will it show up? Like this size big, or this color, or this place, or this alignment. Suppose you are writing something which is Arabic script, okay? And then that should be placed from right to left. Now, browsers by default will not do that for you. So you will have to specify that, start typing things from right to left. All right. So many things that you would want to do on your text, including specifying colors, and later your text is not enough. You have images, you have media files like audio and video, and you want to do a lot of things using them. You want to embed a YouTube video, for example, for all of such special things, or you want to create a table. You want to present your content in a tabular structure or a list of items. For all such special things, HTML provides you a whole bunch of markups. Okay, and we will go through them one by one. We don't have to learn it like a dictionary. As and when we will have a requirement, we will learn, and then we will start using them. So what is HTML? It's a standard markup language for web pages. It's the default, de facto. Without HTML, you can't create web pages. So remember, HTML is the standard markup language. With HTML, of course, you can create your own websites, or you can create websites for others. And it looks something like this. Now, this looks interesting. You have things written like this, which is looking like a simple plain text. But it has something special, and which will, once this content is loaded on an application like browser, it will be presented in different form. So let us see quickly. I have the same content saved in a file, okay, the same text saved in a file, and when I load that file on a browser, it is displayed very differently than what we see here. So let me click on this. Let me double click on this, actually. Just a second. It's not allowing me to click here. I will go back and then click here. And you see, how is it looking? So let me place them side by side, first of all. Then you will be able to compare. Here. So something like page title, where is it getting displayed? This page title has come up here. Now this one, which is saying this is a heading, is also displayed, but it is quite large, you see. And then you have a text which is called, this is a paragraph, which is shown here, but in a smaller size. Now, how is that happening? And if you want to see the same content here, I can go to the browser's context window and I can say view page source. And here it is giving me the exact same thing. Okay, so this content is pasted, copy pasted in a file, and then I browse that file, and then I am able to see it very differently here. And all that magic is happening because of the markups. The markup, for example, title, makes this content present on the title bar. The markup H1 makes it look like this large. Markup like P is presenting it in its normal size here, right? So this is how we can create HTML. Now you see a whole lot of extras which doesn't look like adding any value, like doc type HTML, head, body. I just said page title is being presented because it is wrapped around title. This one becomes very large because it is put up inside H1, and this one is presented as it is because it is put up inside P. Fine, but what is the use of others? Basically, all of these are optional. So let's create a page ourselves, and then we will see. So to create a page, you need nothing special. You need a very simple text editor. And then suppose I want to put up the same content. I will put three things: page title, and I will say this is a heading, and I will say this is a paragraph. Fine. Now to make it a HTML page, I will have to save it, and when I'm saving, I will have to save it as a HTML page. So let me say H1, and then how will I make it HTML? Extension HTML. So file name could be anything, but extension of the file should be .html, or you can still use a shorter version, HTM. So if I have a HTML or HTM, that is good enough. Okay, so let me save it. And now I have saved it. So I have saved it on in this folder. Okay, now this I will just say open with my browser, or I can go to the browser and open it, or here I double click and it will open in the Chrome browser. Okay, now what do you see? I had three things, and it is displayed here as if there is no space, there is no next line, right? Everything is put up in the single flow of single line, correct? Everything is put up as it is. So that is not good. Give me 1 second. Yep. I don't want to do that. What I wanted was, I wanted title to be shown up here, and in the title it says h1.html. So let me put up something like this. I will explain you what is this and how will it make difference, but I'm just adding something around page title and saved it, and then I refresh, and then we see a magic happening. Now this page title has vanished from this section and it has come up here. So anything that I want to show up on the browser's title bar should be put up between this and this. Okay. Now I want to show this in a larger font. So I just wrap it around something like this one, which we had seen earlier, but I'm doing that now again. And I refresh, and suddenly this becomes a very large font size content, right? The title is at the title bar. This one has become very large. And this one is presented as it is. So I can leave it, or I want to say no. I want to, okay, so before that, let's do one more thing. I say this is another paragraph. Okay, and I refresh, but it says no, both are on the same line. Now I want to really create a paragraph around these two lines. These are just two lines, but I want to display it as unique paragraphs. How will I do it? I will simply wrap them around these markups, and then I refresh. Remember, after every edit you have to do a save and then refresh the page, and it shows up like unique paragraphs. Great, right? So we have just created our first HTML page, and we don't need those extras. We don't need doctype, we don't need HTML, head, body, nothing. I can start simple, putting up the text that I want to show, and depending on how I want to show it, I can put some markup around the text. Right. So I'm repeatedly using the term markup, and markup has a special way. Okay, how the browser differentiates between a regular text, which is to be displayed somewhere, and something which is markup, because for us everything is like a text. So everything which is written inside a angle bracket, a pair of angle bracket, or you can recognize it as a less than sign and a greater than sign, a mathematical less than and greater than signs, or if you are comfortable naming them as angle brackets, that is also good. Okay, so anything which is written inside angle bracket, like this and this and this and this, are considered like markups by the browser. Browser is a special application which which is intelligent enough to interpret these markups in certain way. Okay, browser has the support, inbuilt support of interpreting those markups in certain way. So whenever it encounters something like title, which is written a word title written inside a pair of angle bracket, the content after the title until it hits a similar title. But here is a difference. Here at the beginning of title or before title, you have a less than, but here just before title you also have a slash character. Okay, slash, which appears usually as a question mark slash on your keyboard, that. Okay, slash. So less than, slash, and then the markup name, and then the greater than sign. So the interpreter or browser will do what? It will start taking everything here as it is until it hits the equivalent. So in technical terms, this is called a tag. Everything which is a markup is also called a tag. Markup is like a big word, so you can use simple term for that, which is called tag. So tag is referred by the name, unique name. So each tag or each tag name has a special meaning, and those tag names are defined in HTML or language of HTML and its dictionary. Now, browsers like Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, they know how to make sense of these tags, how to show it, right? And then each tag can have an opening and closing tag. So tags will usually appear in a pair. Usually, I'm saying, not always necessary, but it will usually appear in a pair. So title tag, for example, here it is an opening tag, here it is a closing tag. How do we know it's closing? The name is the same, and then it has a less than, and immediately after less than you have a slash. So that is the differentiator between opening tag and a closing tag. So anything between opening tag and closing tag is considered like the content of that tag. So tags will be written something like this: less than, tag name, greater than, and whatever content of that tag that you want to put up, and then it will be closing with a closing tag which is written like less than, slash, and same tag name as you have used earlier to open the tag, and then close, right? So title and title, here it is the opening tag, here is the closing tag, and the content between these two tags are used or interpreted in certain ways. So title tag in this case is known to the browser, and browser says anything which is put up inside a pair of title tag, I will put that content on the title bar. Similarly, H1 tag. H1 is a shortcut for heading type 1, the first type of heading, and which is designed to show the content in certain size. So it will increase the size. Now each browser has its own default sizing. So I'm not saying whether it is size 40 pixel or what, but each browser knows the size. So H1 will be interpreted that way. You see H1 is opening, H1 is closing, and something in the middle will be treated for that H1's presentation behavior. Browsers are the tool to visualize your HTML markups. Similarly, p tag is interpreted, p tag, another p tag is interpreted, right? Pretty simple and easy. And this is how you can start creating your web page. Now, this is good beginning, but this is not enough, okay? Because it does not look so pretty. It looks pretty boring, or it looks pretty nascent. Yeah, it has just begun. It does not look nice. I want to change the color at least, or I want to have some background or some different font. Everything looks very similar, right? Everything is written in Times Roman. I don't like Times Roman, and I want to put it in a different font. Maybe this font itself, the font that is here, or the font that is here. I want to show it in certain special style, special or different than the browser will present it by default. So at any point of time, if I have to go different from the browser, I will try to override the content, and that is what we are going to do here now. Okay, and what am I going to do here now is using the second technology called CSS. Okay, and what is CSS? It's a language that describes the styling of an HTML document. What we created just now is a HTML document. Fine. So we created HTML document, and then we want to now override the styles. Just a second, I want to bring up the chat box so that it is visible to me throughout. Okay, it's visible to me. Fine. So CSS is a language that describes the style, and basically it gives us a way to override or change the default styling. So it describes how HTML elements or tags should be displayed. Fine. For example, this one. So we had tags like H1, we had tags like P, and if you see it again, if you go back, you will see even HTML is like a tag, head is like a tag, body is like a tag. It follows the same construct as you have seen in title, H1 and P, right? Okay, so now I want to put up some extra styling. Don't worry about the values that are showing up, but I want to put some default overriding styling on the presentations. So let me go back to this page, which is, sorry, not this one, this one. This one is the same content that we had seen, almost same. I mean, some words might have changed, but you see a very different presentation. Okay, here you see some background color. The heading is not starting from the left, instead it is somewhere in the middle, and it is white in the color. And for paragraph, you see the font is different from this one, heading. So heading is using a default font, while here some other font has been used. Let us see the source code and see what is different. Here, this section is the same. Of course, title has been removed, but we can keep the title. There will be no styling applicable on title, so that's not relevant. And here, some additional things have come. Body, H, and P. No, don't mind how it is written, how it gets applied. Don't worry too much about that for now. But what it does is it is saying, well, for H1, use the color white, and that is what you are seeing. For H1, it is saying text aligned center, and that is what has happened. The default alignment is left, default color is black, but it says, no, I don't want you to use the default. I want you to use these values. For color, I said white. For text align, I said center. And remember that I want to use this only on H1 tags. Similarly, for P tags, I said, no, don't use the default font family, the style of writing, which is Times Roman for Chrome, for example. And then I said, no, don't use that, use Verdana. And then it was also showing a little smaller in the size. And I said, don't use that default font size, use 20 pixel size. Fine. And that is how it showed up. So let's start doing that on our page that we created earlier. Now, there was one way of putting a style. What I want to do is I want to put up style on the tag that I created right now. Well, one thing, not all tags will allow overriding the default presentation. Like title. Title will be presented as it is. We can't change it. But for everything else which is showing up in this whiter section, which is called body section, we can change the presentation. So let's do something. Now I want to put up an overriding style. So I will have to write something like this. First of all, after H1. So remember what I'm doing in the beginning tag of H1. Everything that I will do to override will be in the start tag, not in the end tag. End tag remains as it is. So everything extra will be done in the start tag. And what I'm doing right now is I'm putting up a property. So property, there will be many properties possible for each tag. Each HTML element or tag supports various properties. We will get into the syntax of that later, but it is very simple. So you can see the property begins with the name of the property, and what I am interested is in the styling property, and for that the name is style, and style property equals its value. Now value could be something that I want to use, and this is where CSS comes into picture. And here I have to specify some CSS properties and their values. So here what we are providing first is the HTML tags property, and in the style property of any HTML tag, the value of the style property should be a whole bunch of CSS properties, one or more CSS properties. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and it has its own dictionary of properties. Not all properties are applicable everywhere. That means not all properties are applicable to each HTML tag, but most of them are common. So what we are going to use right now, say color. Color is a CSS property. And I said, I want to make it say blue. But how will I make it? Okay, I have a word called blue. And I say blue, saved it, and refresh the page. And here you get the magic. Okay, so the color of H1 content has changed. Default was black, and I said I want to see it as blue. And what we did is simply made that change, and it appears in blue. I want to specify another property. So what I will do, I will put up a semicolon. So what we have to do is, if I have to specify more than one CSS properties, each property and its value has to be separated by a semicolon. There are certain rules, some protocols, right? So we have to follow those rules, like punctuation marks that we have been using in our preferred language, English or Hindi or something. So here also we have certain rules. So this is for color. Color means the foreground color, the text color. Now I want to set a background color. So what is the property for that? Background minus color. No spaces in the middle. Background hyphen color or background minus color. And then again, I can put up a color value. And suppose I said yellow. I can specify the word yellow like this and then save it and refresh the page, and we see another magic happening. The heading section only, remember, these styles are applicable to this H1. So all the styles that I have put up is applicable only on this H1. It is not affecting anything else like this paragraph or this paragraph. No, the background color changed, the foreground color changed, because I have specified different values than the default for the text color and the background color. Okay, so this is just a sample how CSS will help us make our HTML look different than the default. There are hundreds and hundreds of properties provided as CSS or provided in the CSS dictionary. Each of them has a purpose, and we can learn them. We can learn them in sequence. But what we are going to do in this course, we will look at some of the important properties. We will not look into everything, but we'll look at some of the most used and most important properties based on its uses. So when we will start dealing with text, we will look into text related CSS properties. When we will start dealing with images, we will see what are the properties for images or making images look different. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. So third piece is JavaScript. Sorry, the title should change. It is not CSS. It should be JS JavaScript. Okay. All right. So what is JavaScript? JavaScript is a programming language for the web. As I said earlier, when you want your page to be dynamic, the content should be dynamically created or changed. Your content or visualization should change. Then you will require a technology called JavaScript. It updates both HTML and CSS. And it also calculates and modifies, manipulates, and validates the data part. So sometimes if you think of your text as data or something which is provided by user, like their name, sometimes you put values, like on Facebook page, login screen, you had to type in your username and type in your password and then press the button to log in. Those are user provided data, and somebody has to accept that. Somebody has to say validate if it is in proper format, or it is not junk, or it is not invalid, and then do something, or then it decides where to go. I mean, which page should be, which content should be presented to you next, all that. All of those are generally managed by JavaScript. Now, JavaScript is not essential even to traverse from one page to another page, from one section to another section. You don't need really JavaScript. There are inbuilt HTML provided tags which will allow you to traverse from one page to another, but JavaScript makes it much easier and stronger. All right, so we will talk about JavaScript a little later, but I will just show you one quick example of the value that JavaScript adds. Okay, so this is a page that we had created earlier. It is having HTML, it is having CSS, and then what I want to do is when I click here, it should do something. It should show me a dialog, a box with giving me the same content as this. And then if I move my mouse over this section, it should change the color of the background like this. And I run away, the color should disappear. So it's like highlighting the section, right? And if I click here, it shows me a box like this with the content, right? These two things are possible only using JavaScript. Now, this page has all three technologies in action. HTML to define the basic markups, CSS to override the default display behaviors or presentation, and then JavaScript to make it more interactive. You have seen that box getting created when you go to Amazon's website. Let's go there again. And here, when I move my mouse over it, it automatically brings up the box around the text, right? And when I move away, that box goes off and the new box appears onto the or around the next thing. And it is very much similar to this, getting a background color set when you are there, and when you run away, the background color is gone. Correct? If I go inside the page source, I will see something extra. Don't worry too much about what is happening, but on the H1 tag, which was where I clicked, I have something special. And what I have done, I have put up a property called onClick and its value. Now on this value, I am doing something which is complicated for you at the moment, but what it is basically taking is it is reading this content and displaying it in an alert box or a dialog box. Fine. In the second paragraph situation, it has two properties. One property is on mouse over. That means when I put the mouse over the section or paragraph, it does something. And when I move the mouse out, so it has on mouse out property set, and it does something. So it is changing the style basically. So we had the style of p tag. Default styles have been already set by the browser, and an overriding style has been applied based on the CSS. And then I am again changing the style during the interaction. So you see, it justifies the claim that JavaScript can update and change both HTML and CSS. JavaScript can do all of that, right? So let's do it in our pace. Suppose I want to do the same thing here. Suppose I say this is a paragraph, fine. And I do what? I want to change the content to something else. So I will write something like this. When I do a click, so when I do the click, it should change the content. Fine. So I want to do this. And don't worry about what I am writing. You will learn it going forward. Okay, I have written something here which will do the magic for me. This is a paragraph, and I say click me to change. Okay, so it's a hint to the user to make a change. Let's come back and let's see. Now this content is appearing here. You see this? And when I do a click, I will just click and it just changed. You see, the magic has happened. I am a changed content. Now, if I go back to the source, you will see that I am a changed content was not put originally on inside the P, but it is now visible. And why is it visible? Because on the click, the content has been changed dynamically somehow. Okay, on click, a property was specified and it did some magic to change the content. And now what you see here is different from what was originally loaded. Let me refresh the page. And this was the original content. And using JavaScript, I could change the HTML itself. I'm not just changing the style, I'm also changing the content. Right. So it justifies the claim that JavaScript can update and change both HTML and CSS. Now, to calculate and to manipulate and to validate data, we will have to start dealing with data. And right now, I'm not going into that. Okay. That leads to the end of today's session. And what we learned basically today. Let me summarize in two minutes and then we will wrap up. So today we learned about the background of website, what a website is, what makes a website, what will be the usual content in the website. It will be text, images, and a whole lot of coloring, right? Only these three things mostly. There will be media, etc. There will be a lot of thought on how to present it, right? The designing part. How will you place or organize your text, image, and color? How will you piece them together is the design. How will you make it working or workable on a computer is the development. And to develop a website, to develop a web page, you need to learn some technologies. And those technologies are HTML, which is the primary technology, a markup language, which is interpreted by the browser in certain way. HTML provides you a whole lot of tags. We just went through a couple of tags today. And we also saw some of the additional tags which we are not really adding value, and we realized that those are even optional. We can start with pretty simple text itself. If I don't have any special markup to put up, we can simply ignore them. But as soon as we start presenting the content in certain way, we have markups. And each markup has a default presentation. Now, if I don't want to use the default presentation and I want to have my own styling, I can start using the second technology called CSS. CSS gives us a whole lot of properties, styling properties, and then I can start specifying values for those properties in the style attribute of a particular tag where I want to override the style as various properties and values. If I have to put more than one value, it should be semicolon separated, right? And then to make it more lively, more interactive or dynamic, we can use JavaScript. Okay, so we saw some examples, we saw some working examples of HTML, which is plain HTML, no special effect, no special thing, only plain HTML, which is rendered, presented by the browser. Then we also went through an example on how to change the styles. And then we also made it interactive or responsive to the user actions like mouse movements or clicks. And we changed the HTML, we changed the CSS, right? Tomorrow, when we will come back, we will get into very specific things of HTML and CSS, and if required, JavaScript. And tomorrow onwards, we will focus on what is available for a specific purpose. Like if I have to do styling on text, what are those? If I have to present the text in certain form, what are coming out of the box through HTML? And to make it little different or very different from the usual, what are the options available through CSS? Okay, so tomorrow we will get into those details, and in this process we will learn lot of tags, lot of CSS properties. What I want you guys to do is this as homework. So in previous session I gave you a homework, so that are still valid. In this session I'm giving you some homework. Search for HTML, search about HTML, search about CSS, and maybe JavaScript. JavaScript is a little complicated, so you can avoid that, but HTML and CSS is something that you should worry about for now, and learn about these things basic. You don't have to go into the details. We'll go into the details together in coming days. So focus on what is HTML, what is CSS. That is one thing. And also think about a website that you would like to create. Okay, without an objective, it will be difficult for us to learn. So think about a website that you want to create. It can be as simple as creating your profile website. You want to tell the world about who you are, what are your educational qualifications, what are your hobbies, what are your past vacations. You want to show pictures of about your past vacations, or you had a party and then you want to write a blog about that party, or you are planning to do something, some idea that you want to showcase. So write a script about your ideas, anything. I'm just giving you one example. Or if you want to have a class presentation, you want to create it like a website with navigations and so many other things. Whatever comes to your mind, just create a sketch of that. Okay, so design it. When you design it, you will struggle to make it working, and that is where we will work together to learn how will you implement those imaginations that you have. Okay, but I want you guys to, again, it is optional, I'm not putting pressure, but it will be useful if you follow this. Create a sketch of your site. It can be very simple, one single page. Create a sketch, hand drawing maybe on a piece of paper using pencils, no worries, and take a snap of that and send to me, send to us on this group. Okay, you can send it to me personally if you don't want to send to all, and then I will take those as examples in our practice sessions and see how those specific things can be done in the process of our learning, right? Okay, it requires, this whole learning is a practical based learning, so you will have to do a lot of practice. I encourage you to do a lot of practice. If you do not follow, ask me to pause, ask me to slow down, ask me to repeat. But if you do not practice along or practice later, it will be of no use. So you have to do a lot of practice, and I want to see your progress. Again, if you don't want to share with others, don't do that. Don't share on yours on this group. Share that with me personally through Skype. You can always send me messages. You can share files with me on Skype. Okay, and I am Ritesh Prasad, by the way. So you can find me on this group and you can send me personal messages through Skype, your plan, your creations, your questions, and I will welcome your feedback. That will help me make this session and coming days better. Okay, so that is the end of today. Any question before we pack up today, and we will meet again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Any question, any feedback? Is this useful? Do you think it will be useful for you? Useful. Okay, good. All right, there is no pressure. If you think it is not useful, you can always say yes. It's optional for you, all of you. Anyway, okay, that's great. And we will meet again tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. We have a lot to cover. I will try to keep it simple, and it's nice meeting you all. And do send me your plan, your creations. Okay, you can share on the group also. It will be useful for others too. So do not hesitate in sharing with the group or with me personally. Thank you once again, guys. Have a nice day. See you again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.
Thank you, sir.